Welcome to Calgary Talks, the social series. I have a chance to talk to great Calgarians on a regular basis, and this series is welcoming you into all of those conversations. Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Calgary Talks, the social series. Today I'm really excited to have Lucas McCarthy here with us from Showpass, an amazing local company. He is the founder and CEO, and we're going to talk a little bit about how Showpass came to be, how well it's done, and what you see for the future. Thanks for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. This is an amazing opportunity to get to chat with you and have my voice heard by the rest of the city. So thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. So let's go back to the beginning and talk a little bit about how you came up with the idea for Showpass.
Yes. The old overnight a success story. It started in university where I'm a natural entrepreneur. This is actually my third company. So I had the opportunity to kind of assess what the landscape looked like and work through university when I was studying for finance and try to assess different opportunities in different spaces. And this was something that was very unique that came up and required relatively little capital to kind of start, build, and then continue building. And from a skill perspective, I had the necessary skills to build it. So, in my last year of university here at the U of C, I decided to kind of take the plunge and go full time in it and start working on what was at the time a queuing system. So that replaced vibrating coasters in restaurants and other queuing entities. So that was where the business started. We eventually found ourselves in a nightlife venue where we got to have different types of interactions where people could go to a restaurant or people go to a gambling facility in some cases where you could actually find yourself spending time being a little bit more useful or a little bit more productive instead of just standing in line. So it started there. Before we knew it, we had a lot of support locally. We had a lot of investor support locally, and we transitioned that into a much heavier investment, doubled down on building the team, and eventually pivoted the product into what we now know today as Showpass, which is primarily ticketing focused, but really central in creating the backbone for event creation and event production in many different countries, but mostly North America.
So humble beginnings where you had an idea of trying to make people's time more valuable instead of standing in line and waiting, and then creating this ticketing system that's homegrown. What made you think you could do it in Calgary, and how has your vision for Showpass evolved?
Calgary is such a unique market. We've got this plethora of entrepreneurs that have built really successful companies in this kind of like some may refer to as a boom and bust cycle, but what that creates is like this level of resiliency amongst generations of people. So you've got such a cool history in creating new businesses, starting new entities, and being successful, and that creates, even generationally from new students and their parents, you get this idea that anything's possible. So in Calgary in particular, even when we were recruiting to build the team out, it started to become a little bit clearer to us that Calgary had this unique identity where the people that we could recruit were not only ambitious, excitable, but talented. They understood how important hard work was. They understood how difficult success could be, and recruiting from that talent pool that already understood that, grew up with it, became a little bit of our identity. I think when we start to look back into the hardest times in the business, I mean, as a ticketing company or an event-centric company during something like COVID, that's kind of our market like reference is how do you even succeed in that? And the reality is that we could succeed better than everyone else because we had created this team structure that completely allowed us to have that full resilience and like almost have an entire group of people that just looked at this as another day. And that I think is when you talk about Calgary and what this city possesses and the people, that's really the result of it. That's what happens when you culminate all those people in a single room with a single mission.
So Showpass straddles a very interesting space because a lot of people know you for entertainment, they know you for ticketing, and others know you for being tech savvy and understanding how to leverage technology. What do you wish more people understood about the tech sector in our city?
The tech sector in our city, although underestimated, has been created by a group of really dedicated people. And those dedicated people have built tons of amazing things, but we do it, I think, as an underestimated and under-resourced group of people. And I think that is what makes the success so unique, is we are not in a city where there is trillions of dollars of tech capital being infused. The money that goes into the businesses here has such an amazing return because of that mindset of being underestimated. And I think the folks that get into this, if they knew going into this that the best outcomes from companies here in Calgary are from those people that can take $1 and turn it into 10 and do it consistently, that's probably the most underestimated or surprising aspect about Calgary Tech, is we've got that efficient, calculated, ambitious, and slightly risk averse, but calculated in the growth of what we want. So it's a very unique space because we're not like Toronto where there's tons of money flowing. We're not like San Francisco. We're not like Vancouver. There's so much uniqueness in our city that creates that pressure to just be very calculated and efficient with the resources that we have.
So it sounds a lot like investors in Calgary are very intentional. So anyone that is interested in investing in Showpass, for example, is doing it on purpose.
Yeah.
They understand that there's something here and they understand that you're scrappy.
Yeah, I think I can't describe how many times I've been called like a dog with a bone, which is, I think, in a lot of cases a good thing, depending on who you're describing. Yeah. I think depending on who you're describing, I think for me, I view it certainly as a compliment. I look at it and I'm like, if I wasn't this tenacious, I would never have gotten this far. If I wasn't this creative, and I have an uncle who's called my dad MacGyver because he just loves to create things even though he has the wrong tools for it. And I think a lot of that is rubbed off on me, except his is with building and mine building actual physical things, and mine is with digital things. I don't have the right tools to build this, but I'm going to do it anyway. And I think that, the investor pool here is so unique in a sense that they don't understand technology maybe because it's a newer identity to Calgary. But what they identify in companies like Showpass or others is the fact that the people are what makes the business, and those people, that ambition, that calculatedness, that is what makes a successful business.
It's interesting to me too that you're someone that took a company of 3 people and grew it into a company of 100 people, and you choose to stay in Calgary as your home base. Do you think it's because you identify with the people who believed in you and invested in you? Do you feel this loyalty to stay in Calgary, or what keeps you here?
I have said this a million times to a million different people, and my clearest answer to that is the people. And it's not necessarily my neighbor, and it's not necessarily the guy down the street. But when I wake up in the morning, I've always said this about my career: is no matter what, I want to walk into an office and I want to work with people that really elevate me. And the luck or the ability, I would say, to have that happen here is what keeps me here. Because I wake up in the morning, I get to go to the office, and I see awesome people. I see people that I don't think I could find in any other city. I see folks that love nature and are still, they still have no concern working a 16-hour day. And, they still prioritize family, and they still prioritize health, and they still prioritize all of these things that are so important to people. And it's something that I can look in the mirror at the end of the day and say, this person elevates me. And I get really excited about that. And that's something that you can't find in every city, and you can't find in every town.
Well, and I've been out to visit your team. So I came to your office in Heritage Square, and it was interesting because it's in the building where I first started my career in Calgary, and it's actually the very same space.
Yes.
And to see how it's transformed is incredible. Like, you can feel the energy from all of the people that you work with. The level of excitement and commitment is palpable. And when you talk about being uplifted by the people who are around you, it shows. It shows in that space that you're in. So how do you think, as a city, we help to generate more of that? Not only in the tech sector, but across the board. How do we attract and retain the types of people that you're talking about?
I think, Canada's headlines is stricken with those negative words that say brain drain this and brain drain that. And I think giving and elevating companies like ours, there's tremendous others in Calgary that have the same mentality. The ability to kind of have that environment created is unique. One of the reasons we're in that office, I've always said, is like we've identified a bunch of different unique aspects. One of them was we wanted dog-friendly offices, and the other we wanted a parkade, and the other is we wanted a balcony, and we wanted a kitchen, and all these other aspects that are, more tangible. But I think as a city, you start looking at celebrating those wins at the highest level. And as a city with, I think, I don't know what the stat is, you probably know this better than I do, but I think we have one of the highest concentrations of headquarters here. That's got to be one of the more difficult things to celebrate when there are so many cool, amazing businesses here. And I think giving those businesses the platform that they need to attract talent from outside the city that really want to be in a place like this, close to the mountains, great weather for everything except for maybe 3 days a year where you can stay inside, affordable housing, and the ability to transport yourself to any part of the city really quickly. Like, we've got so much great pieces of infrastructure that allow for people to just enjoy their careers, enjoy their lives, and making those really key things well known, as well as identifying these great companies and these great people and elevating them so that the world can kind of hear it. I think that's all that's really needed from a city, is to just push that narrative.
I mean, I've been a big believer in that. I think one of the biggest roles I can play is to amplify your voice and to really put out to the public what it is that you're doing and the success that you've met with. I think it's really important to or to identify and spotlight local businesses and their success, because I think that attracts others. It shows people that, we do believe in you here, and we would welcome you and welcome you to be prosperous here as well. And so let's talk a little bit about the ticketing side of the business and the role that you think events and festivals and entertainment plays in building a great city. What do you think our future looks like in that regard?
I think the world has created cities on top and on the backs of culture. And that culture, in a lot of ways, could be expressed through, art, through events, through festivals, through all these things. And you look at New Orleans, Nashville, and in a lot of cases, comedy in New York. There's so much unique forms of entertainment that creates an identity in a city. And Calgary has this incredible starting point in entertainment and festivals and music. We've got amazing things like the Folk Fest. We've got amazing things like the Stampede that has this identity. And I've said this to people, is if you could culminate all of those artists on a single bill and put it in compare it next to a Coachella, Like, we've got some of the best headliners that exist in the world. And the amount of density that exists during that, call it 12-day period of incredible talent and that identity that's created of culture and community and togetherness, it cannot be rivaled. It can't be rivaled anywhere in the world. It's such a unique thing to Calgary. And creating that ability to extend that identity beyond, the cowboy hats and the cowboy boots for longer than 2 weeks, maybe, in the form of culture is something that can be created. I mean, that is in its perfect form, the best example of what the city's made of. We support those events. We attend those events. We love those events. And those have the ability to happen 365 days of the year. I think from a survivability perspective, I don't know if we could permit that, but the infrastructure is here, the ability to execute on it here, the talent for it is all here. And that is such a unique thing that I think is underplayed in a lot of different ways. So I would say that what Showpass wants to do is help extend that energy throughout the entirety of the year, being able to say, how do I bring headliners that may only go to Toronto or may only go to Vancouver, and make sure that we're not a flyover city? How can we help support that with data? How can we create infrastructure from a technology perspective that will showcase that there are enough fans here to support the bouncy castle infrastructure, or the bouncy castle installation, and really unique horse races, and like just some of the craziest things that are successful maybe in other parts of the world. How do we bring them here and understand the demand? That's a big part of what we want to try and elevate and create when it comes to extending that identity or community driven and cultural driven identity that festivals and events can create.
I think that's a really important point too. I think Calgary has been trying to activate festivals and events throughout the year. I know there's a big push in the winter with Chinook Blast, and trying to do things that are more winter focused. We had Ski Jourdu out at Fort Calgary this past February. It was really cold and really amazing. It didn't stop people from turning out. Yeah. And I think it's wild to listen to you talk about how you've seen the evolution of how people engage with events and how the data can really help you drive more business. Tell me about how you think the future of ticketing and attracting events is going to change.
Right now, the way that this structure works is you get someone who is an incredible risk taker to finance some type of event structure. And if they execute it well, if the audience loves it, if you've got all these pieces that fit together, they make money and they do it again the next year. And that risk, that risk profile that exists alongside of that is what keeps people from entering this space as a event host or an event creator. And I think what our responsibility is as a technology solution is to create infrastructure, tools, and ultimately people, humans, and offer that to possible event organizers to create an economy that would have never existed without those things. And that's enabling AI tools to automate, bookings for facilities. That's matching audiences. That's finding sponsors. That's presenting different types of data for funding grants and things like that, so that the ability for any organizer to start become that moat or that startup cost becomes next to zero. That's where I think the shift is going to be. And if Showpass can be a big part of that, and that's what I believe is like, the market may be X millions of dollars or X billions of dollars in any given city. Our job is to grow it. And every year go back to our clientele and say, can we bring you to a new city? Can we help finance this operation? Can we identify an audience there? Can we identify a new artist here that can, come to your events? And I think that's the new age of events that will exist, is people who would have never thought to do it before doing it now. I mean, we've got this really cool installation that we're working on that it takes really unique people, and it gives them an opportunity at local breweries to do almost like a TED Talk, where they can come up with a really interesting topic and present that in a brewery on an off night. And people can come in and basically hear a lecture at a brewery. And we've seen this be successful in other cities, and we want it successful here. We've had this influx of breweries pop up on every corner, being able to help them, fill up on off nights and introduce to new audience members. We're working on a sumo wrestling event because it was an underserved market and we saw it successful somewhere else. So we were like, why not sumo wrestlers? So I think if we can help identify those opportunities, that's the new generation of events. It's not going to be ultra major festivals like landing every weekend. The risk is too high and the infrastructure costs are great. It's going to be these consistent, targeted things where organizers know that you want to go to that, and it's just a matter of matching the audience to a really cool event.
Well, I think people are looking for that intimate experience too. They want to be part of something that's super cool and almost exclusive. Mm-hmm. And so I think you're onto something, and I appreciate that. Tell me a bit more about what you found to be sort of that secret sauce or the ingredients that make up a great collaboration or a great partnership. What do you need?
I love this question because it's applicable in almost any scenario. It's applicable with, my team. It's applicable with external partners. It's that collaboration. And there's a book on it called Radical Candor, which is, I think, can be applied in a lot of different ways. But in this situation, it's like, how can you give that honest feedback to any type of collaborator? Whether it's a city or a venue or a facility, how can you go back and you can say, hey, look, we've got the best long-term vision with each other. How can I line this up with where you're at today and where you need to be tomorrow? To me, that's like the easiest way to collaborate and see, hey, look, we had a client who, had a first style of event this year, and we've created this, first off, they invited us all out, which is amazing. So the team all got to go out, but the comment was, look, if you had to give feedback on every single aspect of this, from the ingress or the parking to the directions, everything else, how do we make this experience so much better for next year that they may not have seen because they're, forest from trees type of situation. And that's our responsibility just as much as, the technology is, to go in and say, how can you have a better bathroom experience? How can you have a better ingress? How can we eliminate this type of problem, or the sound doesn't get to this portion of the building? All of those things are two-way streets too. And I think that collaboration between organizers, between, municipal entities or cities, all of those things I think are key factors for success.
What advice or perspective would you give to those of us who are policymakers, those of us who are enablers for the business sector? What do you need from us?
I would say that general support, and I not to water down the answer to the question, but I think the general support of creating things is already so difficult. I in building Showpass, I got to study a bunch of other companies and how cities have been a big part of some of those companies being successful. And one of Canada's great success stories in Shopify in Ottawa is how they built the first versions of their software with 100-kilometer radius of their office. And having that local support, having those people that are willing and able to engage, provide that feedback, and be champions for the brand was a key driver to their success, because not only did they start by dealing with stores, but they went one step further when they were a little bit more successful. They said, okay, we've got these infrastructure partners that need to create, applications and design templates and all these other cool things. How do we make it so that we're supporting the local economy, that the engineering shops and the development shops and the design shops in our, 100-kilometer bubble are also being and taking part in that. And it returns that level of dollar figure back to the economy super efficiently. Uber had that same success with San Francisco, with their policymakers. And I think some of it may have been a function of timing, but the other aspect is they looked at that technology as something that was, interesting for the city. And I think there's probably further stories to that, but that those are the types of things that I view cities as how do we make it easy for the clients to build the businesses? How do we make it easy for other businesses to be part of that ecosystem? That is, I think, the easiest way to build companies. I've, time and time again, I see companies who are subsidized in the form of, city capital or grant money. And while I think that that's a key part of traction, I think that it creates a level of comfort that doesn't allow competition at a global stage, because that doesn't exist everywhere else. You can't do that always. So while I think that that's a great opportunity to help start businesses and get them going, my view is that creating that ecosystem locally that builds that business as a business is got to be a key driver for long-term sustainability for those businesses. Because I think that's the difference now is, companies like mine, we're not starting up and selling in a year. We're building these companies to last, and we're building these companies to acquire other businesses. We're building these companies to be the biggest businesses they could be. And that's such a different perspective that technology has taken over the past 20 years, where it was a start and an exit in a short period of time, capital injection into the market or the economy. 20 new companies got, started, and, you see that in RIM and BlackBerry, and there's been such cool stories about that, but that I think that ship has sailed in a lot of ways. Sustainability and profitability and growth is that's like the new cool.
I like the new cool.
I like it too. It's been an awkward come up without it being that, when everybody else had headlines that we didn't fit into, but it was a long, tedious process to stay the course.
So, last question. What's been your favorite experience? What was the most unexpected moment where something happened that just made you feel like you could do this, and it just made you want to keep going?
To put a Canadian reference into this, it's like there's been so many times where it's like, I should just hang up my skates. Like, I've got enough black eyes. This has like been a painful process. How do I continue down this path? And I've got a lot of like supportive people in my life, and my wife has been someone there who's forced those skates back on my feet. And I think that that's like, looking backwards through times like COVID, where I probably had more caffeine a day than I have in a year during COVID. I think my heart rate was like a consistent double of what it should have been. Because it was just like work 24 hours a day, trying to make sure that we got out of it. And making sure that, those, when you get through each one of those and someone is surrounding you, pointing out the wins, those are really the times where you can see, you can smell the flowers. Like, and I don't think there's any one aspect that has done that for us. Like, I am 100% the worst guy in my entire company to celebrate wins. So that's what makes it maybe a little bit harder. But, navigating through COVID was a big one. But yeah, just having a support system in my own life, as well as having people in the company that can say, hey, look, like, we made a lot of money doing this, and we've built a great team, and we've like, this is a cool business. Like, what, and me being like, well, what about the next thing and the next thing and the next thing? So I think that's a general kind of theme that keeps me moving and is surprising to me that I've survived this long.
Well, there's something to be said for a person that's always got to hustle, yes. Right? You always got to look for who's your next client going to be, what's your next move going to be. It's hard to stop and smell the roses, so to speak. So I'm glad you've got your proverbial coach who told you to put the skates back on. But it's hard to do sometimes. You get caught up in what's next. But I'm really glad you've taken the moments to celebrate how far you've come. I can tell you that your city's really proud of your success.
Thank you.
We think that you've got something remarkable here. And just keep going. We're all behind you. And I want to thank you for coming in today. It's been a great conversation, and I wish you well with Showpass.
Thank you so much.